Have you ever walked away from an argument and thought, why did I react like that? Maybe someone raised their voice just a little, and suddenly your heart started racing. Maybe you apologized, even though you weren't wrong. Maybe you shut down completely because speaking felt impossible. Or maybe you found yourself trying to fix everyone else's feelings while completely ignoring your own. The strange thing is, none of those reactions usually begin in adulthood. They began much earlier, long before you had a job, long before relationships, long before you even understood what conflict really was. As children, we learn something incredibly important without anyone ever teaching it directly. We learn what keeps us emotionally safe, not through lessons, through experience. If being quiet kept the peace, you became quiet. If getting perfect grades earned love, you became the achiever. If taking care of everyone stopped the fighting, you became the peacemaker. Those weren't personalities. They were survival strategies. And here's what many people never realize. Survival strategies don't magically disappear when childhood ends. They quietly grow up with us. They show up in our marriages, our friendships, our workplaces, even in tiny disagreements over things that don't really matter. Sometimes you're not reacting to the person standing in front of you. You're reacting to a version of yourself that learned years ago that conflict wasn't safe. Today, we're going to uncover those hidden childhood roles, not to blame our parents, not to relive painful memories, but because you can't change a pattern you don't recognize. And once you see it, you'll never look at your reactions the same way again. 1. The invisible contract we make as children. Children are surprisingly observant. Even before they understand language fully, they begin asking silent questions. What makes people smile? What makes them angry? What gets me attention? What makes me feel safe? They don't ask these questions with words. They answer them through behavior. Imagine growing up in a home where arguments happened every night. Nobody sat you down and said, "Your job is to keep everyone happy." But every time you made people laugh, the room became quieter. Every time you comforted your younger sibling, things calmed down. Without realizing it, your brain connected one simple idea. My value comes from keeping peace. That belief doesn't stay in childhood. Years later, your partner is upset. Your boss sounds disappointed. A friend seems distant. And before you even think, you're already trying to fix everything. Not because it's your responsibility, because your nervous system believes your safety depends on it. This is why adult reactions often feel automatic. You're not choosing them consciously. You're repeating emotional instructions written years ago. 2. The peacemaker. The peacemaker usually grew up around tension. Maybe people shouted. Maybe emotions felt unpredictable. Maybe everyone depended on them emotionally. So they learned one rule: keep everyone calm. As adults, peacemakers often seem incredibly kind. They're supportive, patient, easy to get along with. People love being around them. But underneath that kindness is often fear, because conflict doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it feels dangerous. So instead of saying, "That hurt me," they say, "It's okay," even when it isn't. Instead of expressing anger, they swallow it. Instead of setting boundaries, they over-explain. Eventually, resentment builds, not because they're weak, because they've been carrying emotions that never belonged only to them. The hardest lesson for a peacemaker is this: keeping everyone else comfortable should never cost you your own peace. 3. The achiever. Then there's the achiever. As children, these people often discovered that praise followed performance. Good grades, good behavior, being responsible, being impressive. Love didn't necessarily disappear when they failed, but it often felt stronger when they succeeded. So success became safety. Now they're adults, highly productive, reliable, successful on paper, but conflict feels strangely personal. Constructive criticism feels devastating. Small mistakes feel enormous. Why? Because somewhere inside, their younger self still believes, if I'm not impressive, I might not be enough. That's why many achievers apologize for tiny mistakes. They overwork. They struggle to rest. They feel guilty relaxing. They're constantly chasing a finish line that keeps moving. Not because they're ambitious, because they're trying to earn a feeling that should never have required earning in the first place. The feeling of being enough. 4. The invisible child. Some children weren't expected to achieve, or fix, or lead. They simply learned not to take up space. Maybe their family had bigger problems. Maybe another sibling needed more attention. Maybe expressing emotions only made things worse. So they became invisible, quiet, independent, easy. Adults often admire these people. They're low maintenance, calm, independent. But underneath, many invisible children secretly struggle with something painful. They believe their needs are burdens. So during conflict, they disappear. They stop texting. They avoid difficult conversations. They convince themselves they don't care. But they do care very deeply. They've learned that needing people feels unsafe. And here's the heartbreaking part. Many invisible children become adults who desperately want connection, while unconsciously pushing it away. Not because they don't love people, because they've practiced disappearing for so long that visibility feels terrifying. 5. Why adult conflicts feel bigger than they are. Have you ever noticed that one small disagreement can ruin your entire day? Logically, you know it's not the end of the world. Emotionally, it feels enormous. That's because your brain isn't only responding to today's conflict. It's comparing today's situation with thousands of emotional memories stored over years. Someone ignores your message. Your nervous system remembers being emotionally overlooked. Someone criticizes you. It remembers feeling like mistakes weren't allowed. Someone gets angry. Your body reacts before your mind even understands why. This is why healing isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about recognizing when your past has quietly stepped into your present. The moment you notice, this feels much bigger than what's actually happening. You've already interrupted the old pattern. Awareness is where change begins. Conclusion: writing a new script. Here's the beautiful thing about childhood roles. They helped you survive. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to feel ashamed of them. In many ways, they protected you. The peacemaker kept the family together. The achiever found hope through success. The invisible child stayed emotionally safe by asking for very little. Those roles deserve compassion. But they don't have to run your life forever. You're allowed to disagree without believing you'll lose love. You're allowed to make mistakes without questioning your worth. You're allowed to have needs without feeling guilty. You can choose boundaries over people-pleasing, rest over constant proving, honesty over hiding. The child inside you did exactly what they needed to do, but you're not that child anymore. You have choices now. And maybe the greatest sign of healing isn't becoming someone completely different. Maybe it's finally realizing that you no longer have to earn the safety you've been searching for your entire life. If this video helped you understand yourself a little better, let me know in the comments. Which childhood role did you recognize in yourself? The peacemaker, the achiever, the invisible child, or maybe a mix of all three? Sometimes simply putting a name to an old pattern is the first step toward finally letting it go. And if you'd like more videos exploring the hidden psychology behind our everyday thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, consider subscribing. Because understanding your mind doesn't change your past, but it can completely change what happens next.